Is there any way possible to fit all spooky, scary, and otherwise creepy books onto a mood read TBR for October? Stay tuned here on the Rose at Home channel to find out. Where I am Rose, I am at home, and I am so glad that you have decided to join me while I twist, turn, and stretch my mood read TBR prompts to fit what I really am in the mood to read this month. And that is all things spooky and scary. I didn't realize how many of these I had unread on my shelves until I started trying to put this together, and I decided this is the time, October is the month, we're going to read all of the things that go bump in the night, and so I need to get to it because this is a whole lot of books. The first prompt in the mood read TBR is I want to feel good. I know I'm gonna feel good reading Silvia Moreno-Garcia because she's one of my favorites. And this book has to do with the film industry, and even though I don't talk about movies on here, I see a lot of movies. I go to the movies all the time. I love film and cinema, so I think I'm really gonna feel good with this one. This is Silver Nitrate. It just came out last month, I believe. So let me read you the jacket. Montserrat has always been overlooked. She's a talented sound editor, but she's left out of the boys club running the film industry in 90s Mexico City. And she's all but invisible to her best friend, Tristan, a charming, if faded, soap opera star, though she's been in love with him since childhood. Then Tristan discovers that his new neighbor is the cult horror director Abel Llorente, and the legendary auteur claims that he can change their lives, even if his tale of a Nazi occultist imbuing magic into a highly volatile silver nitrate stock sounds like sheer fantasy. The magic film was never finished, which is why, Llorente swears, his career vanished overnight. He is cursed. Now the director wants Montserrat and Tristan to help him shoot the missing scene and lift the curse. But Montserrat soon notices a dark presence following her, and Tristan begins seeing the ghost of his ex-girlfriend. As they work together to unravel the mystery of the film and the obscure occultist who once roamed their city, Montserrat and Tristan may find that sorcerers and magic are not only the stuff of movies. In Silver Nitrate, Silvia Moreno-Garcia conjures a tale of movie magic and supernatural suspense. How much fun does that sound? We got the 90s, we got the movies, we've got goodness only knows what's going on with this director and this film stock and all of the hijinks that will ensue. I think this is going to be fun, a little bit scary, a lot of fun. I'm here for it. Because this list was so long, I took off the I want to learn something because I don't want to learn things in October. I just want to curl up with scary books and good coffee. So on to prompt 3, which is I want a good scare, which is perfect. So I decided what better to throw on here than Grady Hendrix, How to Sell a Haunted House. I don't know about you, but I have to have a haunted house story at least one in the mix for October. So this I think is gonna fit the bill for this month. When Louise finds out that her parents have died, she dreads going home. She doesn't want to leave her daughter with her ex and fly to Charleston. She doesn't want to deal with her family home stuffed to the rafters with the remnants of her father's academic career and her mother's lifelong obsession with puppets and dolls. Oh my goodness, it's going to be scary dolls, isn't it? Okay. She doesn't want to learn how to live without the 2 people who knew and loved her best in the world. Oh, this could have went in heartbreak section. Most of all, she doesn't want to deal with her brother Mark, who never left their hometown, gets fired from one job after another, and resents her success. Unfortunately, she'll need his help to get the house ready for sale, because it takes more than some new paint on the walls and clearing out a lifetime of memories to get this place on the market. But some houses don't want to be sold, and Louise and Mark's home has other plans for both of them. It sounds good. I think they mentioned the puppets and dolls because there's gonna probably be a really creepy scene, but I am still here for it. I think there's gonna be lots of haunty house hijinks that will ensue in this one. The next prompt is I want twists and turns, and for that one I picked Leigh Bardugo's Hellbent. This is the second book in the series that started with Ninth House. I am rereading Ninth House right now, so I am not going to tell you what happens in this because I am positive it is going to be spoilers for Ninth House. So I will just tell you about Ninth House. So Ninth House features a young woman named Galaxy Stern. She goes by Alex, and she can see ghosts. She gets brought to Yale even though she doesn't even have a high school diploma, because there is a group called the Ninth House. They are a society that watches over the other 8 houses. They all deal with different types of magic and different things that reach beyond the veil and the occult. And so the Ninth House is there to kind of make sure that they stay in line. And so since Alex can see the ghosts without even trying and without having to do any magic spells, the group called Lethe brings her in to help watch the other houses, and the hijinks totally ensue here. So it's a triple timeline, so it requires a lot of direct focus. It's not one your mind can wander because you're going to get lost, or at least I do. But it's got the timeline of early fall for when she first gets to Yale and is first learning how to do her job, the timeline in winter where something has happened to her mentor, and then the timeline of spring where I think we're dealing with the aftermath of the hijinks. We haven't spent a lot of time in spring and have not been clear as to what has happened. I think we have to learn it through the other timelines. So it's really good. It is just a roller coaster of a ride, and I know I'm gonna love this. So I'm trying, right now I'm already debating, do I wanna pick it up immediately when I finish and maybe start a little bit early, or give myself a little break? I don't know yet, but I guess we'll find out. So the next prompt is I want a good cry, and I thought this book, of all of the scary books I picked, might do it. And it is Lone Woman by Victor LaValle. If I understand correctly, like, her family has passed and she's dealing with that, and so that's why I put that here. Let me see. Adelaide Henry carries an enormous steamer trunk with her wherever she goes. It's locked at all times, because when the trunk opens, people around Adelaide start to disappear. The year is 1915, and Adelaide is in trouble. Her secret sin killed her parents, forcing her to flee California in a hellfire rush and make her way to Montana as a homesteader. That's why I thought this might fit here. Dragging the trunk with her at every stop, she will become one of the lone women, taking advantage of the government's offer of free land for those who can take it. Except that Adelaide isn't alone, and the secret she's tried so desperately to lock away might be the only thing that would help her survive the harsh territory. Crafted by a modern master of magical suspense, Lone Women blends shimmering prose, an unforgettable cast of adventurers who find horror and sisterhood in a brutal landscape, and a portrait of early 20th century America like you've never seen. And at its heart is the gripping story of a woman desperate to bury her past or redeem it. That really, it sounds moving, but also scary, like what's in that trunk, what's happening to these people. So I think I'm gonna get the best of both. So I feel like this really fits the prompt, and I am so excited to read it, hopefully in October. The next prompt is I want to escape, and I thought this book might be a really good choice. It has multiple timelines going all the way back to the 1600s, and so that's why I thought Weyward by Emilia Hart would be a great book for escape. I am a wayward and wild inside. 2019. Under cover of darkness, Kay flees London for ramshackle Weyward Cottage, inherited from a great aunt she barely remembers. With its tumbling ivy and overgrown garden, the cottage is worlds away from the abusive partner who tormented Kate. But she soon suspects that her great aunt had a secret, one that lurks in the bones of the cottage, hidden ever since the witch hunts of the 17th century. 1619. Alpha is awaiting trial for the murder of a local farmer who was stampeded to death by his herd. When Alpha was a girl, her mother taught her that magic, a kind not rooted in spell casting but in a deep knowledge of the natural world. But unusual women have always been deemed dangerous, and as the evidence of witchcraft is laid out against Altha, she knows it will take all of her powers to maintain her freedom. 1942. As World War II rages, Violet is trapped in her family's grand, crumbling estate. Straitjacketed by societal convention, she longs for the robust education her brother receives, and for her mother, long deceased, who was rumored to have gone mad before her death. The only trace Violet has of her are a locket bearing the initial W and the word Weyward scratched in the baseboard of her bedroom. Weaving together the stories of 3 extraordinary women across 5 centuries, Weyward is an astonishing debut and an enthralling novel of female resilience. That sounds amazing. I'm not even sure quite how scary this is going to be. The cover looks kind of creepy, but the witch stories and the family drama, I think I'm here for it. I think this is going to be a great escape. So if I was worried there wasn't going to be enough scare in the last book, I think this one will totally make up for it. The next challenge is, I want a challenge. I don't do super scary. And just looking at this, I'm surprised I bought this. I was like wondering, what are you doing? What are you doing, Rose? But look at this. It's called Thicker Than Blood. And look, the hands. I think this is going to be one. So it is by Madeline, Sheehan, and Claire C. Riley. And this is a lot. So it's paperback, so let me read the back. Liesl and Evelyn lost everything. Husbands, families, friends, lives that made sense. All they had left was each other and a friendship that could withstand anything, even an apocalypse. Until one fateful night, the marginal safety they'd come to rely on comes to a vicious and brutal end. With the help of Alex and Jamie, both unlikely allies, Liesl and Evelyn are able to escape their shattered sanctuary, only to find themselves face to face with a much altered, much crueler life, where they have to find the way and the will to stay alive in a world they no longer recognize. Traveling across a broken and infection-ridden country, the road-weary group is pitted against endless violence, improbable circumstance, and the ultimate loss. Everything comes at a price, especially safety, the cost of which could very well strip them of the one thing they've tried so hard to cling to, their humanity. But along with all the trials they're forced to endure, there's also hope in the form of love. Having loved Liesl from afar, Alex attempts to put the pieces of her fractured heart back together. But in such a savage world, is there room for love? In a place of nightmares made reality, where the living should be feared far more than the dead, an unbreakable friendship and a love against all odds can mean the difference between life and death. There are friends, and then there are Liesl and Evelyn. I believe this is zombies. So I think it's going to be a zombie apocalypse book. I think it's going to be really, really scary. I think it's going to, if there's anything in here that seems a little too light and not scary enough, that will give me an open window to jump into the really, really scary thing, which I suspect is this. So the next pick is I want a seasonal read. And so of course scary things fit here, especially scary houses. So for this one, I put in The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I think this is gonna be great. Okay. During the overthrow of the Mexican government, Beatrice's father was executed and her home destroyed. When husband Don Rodolfo Salazano proposes, Beatrice ignores the rumors surrounding his first wife's sudden demise, choosing instead to seize the security that his estate in the countryside provides. She will have her own home again, no matter the cost. But Hacienda San Isidro is not the sanctuary she imagined. When Rodolfo returns to work in the capital, visions and voices invade Beatrice's sleep. The weight of invisible eyes follow her every move. Rodolfo's sister, Juana, scoffs at Beatrice's fears. But why does she refuse to enter the house at night? Why does the cook burn corporal incense at the edge of the kitchen and mark the doorway with strange symbols? What really happened to the first Doña Solizano? Beatrice only knows two things for certain. Something is wrong with the hacienda, and no one there will save her. Desperate for help, she clings to the young priest, Padre Andrés, as an ally. No ordinary priest, Andrés will have to rely on his skills as a witch to battle the malevolent presence haunting the hacienda. Far from a refuge, San Isidro may be Beatrice's doom. That sounds amazing and perfect for this month. So we've got gothic horror. We've got scary, creepy house that actually in this case might be haunted. We've got young priest. I don't know what he's doing there, but he's also a witch and a priest. We got all the things. I cannot wait. This is going to be great. The next prompt is, I've wanted to read this for a while. I have owned this book for so long. It has moved with me multiple times and I still haven't read it. So hopefully this is the month for it. And it is The First Girl Child by Amy Harmon. And it sounds pretty good. Okay. So in a time of runes and magic, one woman's curse has the power to destroy or save. Buyer of Salok, bastard son of a powerful and jealous chieftain, is haunted by the curse once leveled at his dying mother. Bartered, abandoned, and rarely loved, she plagued the land with her words. From this day forward, there will be no daughters and Salok. Raised among the keepers at the temple, Bayar is gifted with inhuman strength, but he's also blessed with an all-too-human heart that beats with one purpose: to protect Alba, the first girl child born in nearly 2 decades, and the salvation for a country at risk. Now the fate of Salok lies with Alba and Bayar, whose bond grows deeper with every whisper of coming chaos. Charged with battling the enemies of their people, both within and without, Bayar is fueled further by the love of a girl who has defied the scourge of Salok. When Bayar and Alba don't know is that they each threaten the king, a greedy man who built his throne on lies, murder, and betrayal. There is only one way to defend the land from the corruption that has overtaken it. By breaking the curse, they could defeat the king, but they could also destroy themselves. So we got curses, we got scary magic stuff, so I think it fits without it being like too over the top scary. I think it's going to be really kind of fantasy heavy, and I am here for it, and I think it's going to be a great fit with the rest of my October TBR. The next prompt is Ooh Shiny, and it is for things that are brand new or brand new to me that I just can't wait to read. And for this, I picked something that's been on my wish list TBR for a long time, but I just got it last month, and it is Taylor Adams' No Exit. I've been wanting to read this since it came out. I finally picked it up from Book of the Month. This sounds really creepy, and I thought at first that this was just a mystery, but in Goodreads, folks have it tagged also as horror. So mystery horror, I thought, I am so here for that. So this is going on this month. Here, listen to this. On her way to Utah to see her dying mother, college student Darby Thorne gets caught in a fierce blizzard in the Colorado Rockies. With the roads impassable, she's forced to wait out the storm at a remote highway rest stop with no cell phone reception. Inside are some vending machines, a coffee maker, and 4 complete strangers. Desperate to find a signal to call home, the exhausted young art student goes back out into the storm and makes a horrifying discovery. In the back of the van, parked next to her car, is a little girl locked in an animal crate. Who is this child? Why has she been taken, and how can Darby save her? There was no way to call for help and no way out. One of her fellow travelers is a kidnapper, but which one? Trapped in an increasingly dangerous situation at the edge of civilization with a child's life and her own on the line, Darby must find a way to break the girl out of the van and escape. But who can she trust? With exquisitely controlled pacing, Taylor Adams diabolically ratchets up the tension with every page, full of terrifyingly blind twists and hairpin turns as treacherous as a slick, snow-covered mountain road. This brilliant thriller will have you on the edge of your seat and leave you breathless. and I am so here for it. I'm so excited to finally have this, and I cannot wait to read it. So the last regular prompt is I have to read this. This is where things you've said you'd buddy read with a friend go, and for me, things for book club goes. And so this is not going to be a horror book at all. This is Anne Cleeves' The Raging Storm. I went to meet Anne Cleeves. We had an author event that was sponsored by my local independent bookstore, and it was wonderful. I had the best time. I had planned to gush about it in this video, but it's already too long, so I'm gonna have to make another video, maybe when I talk about reading this book and how book club went. But so that you know what this is about. Oh, and I just asked for my name, but she had asked what I do for, like, we had talked about the fact that I'm a teacher, and so she wrote this to me, if you can read that. She was the sweetest lady. It was just a wonderful, wonderful event, wonderful time. I will gush another time. If you would like to see that video, see me talk about what happened at the Anne Cleeves event, or you'd like to see me do my review of Ninth House, which I talked about Hellbent earlier, go ahead please and subscribe to my channel so that you always get to see all of the videos that I have coming out and you don't miss anything. Okay, but Raging Storm. When Jem Roscoe, sailor, adventurer, and legend, blows into town in the middle of an autumn gale, the residents of Greystone, Devon, are delighted to have a celebrity in their midst. But just as abruptly as he arrived, Roscoe disappears again, and soon his lifeless body is discovered in a dinghy anchored off Scully Cove, a place with legends of its own. This is an uncomfortable case for Detective Inspector Matthew Verne. Greystone is a place he visited as a child, a community he parted ways with. Superstition and rumor mix with fact as another body is found and Venn finds his judgment clouded. As the winds howl and Venn and his team investigate, he realizes that no one, including himself, is safe from Scully Cove's storm of dark secrets. So maybe not scary, but definitely twisty, turny, adventure-y, mysterious, and I am so here for this. So the next prompt is one I almost always forget to mention, and it is I would rather read this. So as a mood reader, I pick a TBR in order to take my couple of hundred books that I have behind me and narrow them down to a dozen or so to select from, so that I don't get the analysis paralysis of trying to figure out what is it that I want to read out of all of these. It just gives me a smaller encapsulated set of choices, and it works really well for me. But part of why it works so well is that I give myself the option of picking anything else. If there's something else that's screaming out to me, if there's something else I would love, I can always choose that. So I actually have 6 other books that didn't fit into the prompts that I do want to have out in this curated collection, so that I might also pick them. So I did want to share with you the other 6 that might get read this month. One other thing that I want to say, I don't do punishments. This TBR isn't a you have to read this or you have to like tap dance with a chicken on your head. I don't do that stuff. This is just to make reading easier and selecting easier, and that's why I do this. So, okay, the first thing in my I might instead want to read this is Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. I put the other book in there because that was her first book, this is her second. So I know of the two I want to read the Hacienda first, but vampires, I think I'd really like to try some vampires in October, so I also picked this one. Let me read you what this one is about. As the daughter of a rancher in 1840s Mexico, Nena knows a thing or two about monsters. Her home has long been threatened by tensions with Anglo settlers from the north, but something more sinister lurks near the ranch at night, something that drains men of their blood and leaves them for dead, something that once attacked Nena 9 years ago. Believing Nena dead, Nestor has been on the run from his grief ever since, moving from ranch to ranch, working as a vaquero. With no amount of drink can dispel the night terrors of sharp teeth. No woman can erase his childhood sweetheart from his mind. When the United States invades Mexico in 1846, the two are brought abruptly together on the road to war. Nena as a curandera, a healer striving to prove her worth to her father so that he does not marry her off to a stranger, and Nestor as a member of the auxiliary cavalry of ranchers and vaqueros. But the shock of their reunion and Nena's rage at Nestor for seemingly abandoning her long ago is quickly overshadowed by the appearance of a nightmare made flesh. And unless Nena and Nestor work through their past and face their future together, neither will survive to see the dawn. That sounds amazing. So this is also going up on that shelf just in case I'm really feeling like a good solid vampire story. Speaking of vampire stories, I am also putting The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland on the shelf as well. And this is also vampires. Colette Lesage is a lonely artist who heads to an elite fine art school for children in upstate New York. Her youthful beauty masks the dark truth of her life. She has endured centuries of turmoil and heartache in the wake of her grandfather's long ago decision to make her immortal like himself. Now, in 1984, Colette finds her life upended by the arrival of a gifted child from a troubled home, the return of a stalking presence from her past, and her own mysteriously growing hunger for blood. Does that not sound amazing? So I am here for it. So it's like the vampire story, but from the vampire's perspective. And I think that's going to be a really interesting take. So this is going on the shelf. Not sure I'll get to it, but I want to at least try. Okay, this is one that I strongly suspect is going to get picked, and it is Riley Sager's The Only One Left. I've been hearing nothing but amazing things about this one, and I'm so excited to give it a shot. So, at 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope. Now reduced to a schoolyard chant, the Hope family murder shocked the Maine's coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assumed 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the police were never able to prove it. Other than her denial after the killing, she has never spoken publicly about that night, nor has she set foot outside Hope's End, the cliffside mansion where the massacre occurred. It is now 1983, and home health aide Kit McDeer arrives at a decaying Hope's End to care for Lenora after her previous nurse fled in the middle of the night. In her 70s and confined to a wheelchair, Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes and can only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer. "I want to tell you everything." As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear that there's more to the tale than people know. But when new details about her predecessor's departure comes to light, Kit starts to suspect Lenora might not be telling the complete truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she first thought. That sounds so good. That sounds really good. And I've been wanting to pick this up. I've kind of been trying to hold, I think it's been on a different TBR, but I was holding off for October. I'm really hoping that this one gets read. And the next one I picked is another Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and it is The Daughter of Dr Moreau. I've heard so much good stuff about this one, but I have not gotten to it yet, and I feel like October might be a good time for it. So, Carlotta Moreau, a young woman growing up on a remote and luxuriant estate, safe from the conflict and strife of the Yucatan Peninsula, the only daughter of a researcher who is either a genius or a madman. Montgomery Lawton, a melancholy overseer with a tragic past and a propensity for alcohol, an outcast who assists Dr. Moreau with his experiments, which are financed by the Lizaldis, owners of magnificent haciendas and plentiful coffers. The hybrids, the fruits of the doctor's labor, destined to blindly obey their creator and remain in the shadows. A motley group of part human, part animal monstrosities. All of them live in a perfectly balanced and static world, which is jolted by the abrupt arrival of Eduardo Lizalde, the charming and careless son of Dr. Moreau's patron, who will unwillingly begin a dangerous chain reaction. For Moreau keeps secrets, Carlotta has questions, and in the sweltering heat of the jungle, passions may ignite. The Daughter of Dr. Moreau is both a dazzling historical novel and a daring science fiction journey. So that sounds awesome. We've got weird science going on. We've got hybrids. We've got hijinks. We got it all. And I really think this would fit super well in October. What is October without witch stories? And I think I've got one in there, but here is a second, and it is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I picked this up when it first came out. It looked amazing then. It looks amazing now. Hopefully this will make its way fully into my reading list. In the lands of Bethel, where the prophet's word is law, Emmanuel Moore's very existence is blasphemy. Her mother's union with an outsider of a different race cast her once proud family into disgrace. So Emmanuel does her best to worship the Father, follow holy protocol, and lead a life of submission, devotion, and absolute conformity like all the other women in the settlement. But a mishap lures her into the forbidden dark woods surrounding Bethel, where the first prophet once chased and killed 4 powerful witches. Their spirits are still lurking there, and they bestow a gift on Emmanuel, the journal of her dead mother, who Emmanuel is shocked to learn once sought sanctuary in the wood. Fascinated by the secrets in the diary, Emmanuel finds herself struggling to understand how her mother could have consorted with the witches. But when she begins to learn grim truths about the church and its history, she realizes the true threat to Bethel is its own darkness. As she starts to understand that if Bethel is to change, it must begin with her. That sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing. Like a witch story that's not witches, and it's like the bad guys are really the people who were going after the witches, because that's most historically accurate story. So I am here for it, and I really do hope that this is enough. I hope I get to all of them. I don't know how that's possible and still have a job, but I do hope to get to all of them, especially this one. Another one that I have had forever. It has moved with me twice, and I still really want to get to it. I feel like it's going to fit really well this month, and it is Hex. And it is by Thomas Old Houvelt. That cover is really cool. So, let me just read you the back. Whoever is born here is doomed to stay till death. Whoever settles never leaves. Woo! Welcome to Black Spring, a seemingly picturesque Hudson Valley town haunted by the Black Rock Witch, a 17th century woman whose eyes and mouth are sewn shut. Muzzled, she walks the streets and enters homes at will. She stands next to children's beds for nights on end. Her eyes may never be opened, or the consequences will be too terrible to bear. The elders of Black Spring prevent the curse from spreading with high-tech surveillance. Frustrated by the lockdown, the town's teenagers break their strict regulations, and in doing so, send the town spiraling into depraved practices of the distant past. This terrifying novel heralds the arrival of an exciting new voice in horror and dark fantasy. So I don't know if it's old enough that he might have some new things out, but I've had it for forever and I really do want to get to it. I think it's going to be really scary, really creepy, and a really good fit for Halloween. I sincerely hope that a few of those sound good enough to you that you'll want to join me in reading them this month. If there's one that you want to hear more about and you want me to try to make sure that I get to it in October, please tell me down in the comments below which one, and I will try to put it to the front of the list. And if you would like even more suggestions for spooky, scary reads, I did a video about a week ago where I talked about these scary things that I have read already that are on my shelves that are my favorites. So I'm going to link that video right, I think, over here, and I hope you watch that one through and give me that little subscribe. In the meantime, I hope that you have an absolutely amazing week, and I hope you get to read some really amazing and scary books. Bye, y'all.